Hello, everybody. It's Andre McCarter again. Touch in. We at it again. Boy, we got a doozy for you today. I'm bringing in a gentleman that not only affected the game of basketball in a unique way, did some pioneering things in when he played and who he played with, some of the legends of the game of basketball, but he also does what we need in our society today. He's bringing service to people, education, political correctness, and right things in the political perspective to make the world a better place. So I'm here to introduce somebody I used to lay my eyes on as a youth in the Charles Baker League, and showed me a lot of things about the game, how an intelligent basketball player goes about matriculating. You don't have to be the tallest, you don't have to be necessarily the quickest, but you know what to do. Well, this gentleman knew what to do. So let's listen to him. Let us take you down the road today. I'm here and honored and happy, excited to introduce you to Mr. Teddy Blunt. Hey, how you doing, Teddy? Good to see you.
Hey, it's my pleasure to be here, and it's an honor to be on your show.
Oh, great. I appreciate it, man. This is something else. So what I want to do is, as we were talking, politically, you have a daughter that's in politics, correct?
That's correct.
Yep. And one of the things that, sometimes when you think of basketball players, and you made a statement earlier when we were talking, basketball players, we have a way people think about us, and they don't think of us outside of that realm too much. Now, today, the guys get more opportunities. They become announcers and this and that or whatever. But when you're talking about being in politics, serving the community, being on all kind of boards, people don't see athletes that were successful at basketball. We don't see those images of those people going on in life and making all those great things happen in different fields that affect society in a bigger picture than even sports does. And this gentleman here, Teddy Blunt, does that. But we got him on the show, obviously, because of his basketball, but we're going to get to that later. But Teddy, tell us a little bit about your upbringing when it came to your education, because you said something unique about your parents and how they set that table. Because I think parents today are looking and need to at least be looking for how to set the table for how their kids are going to approach the world. So your parents did a great job. You were one of the pioneers in your family as far as getting through college and those types of things. Just tell us a little bit about how you were brought up and what antennas your parents pushed you, the directions your parents pushed you in.
Well, I grew up in North Philadelphia. I was one of four. We lived in public housing, which is at 25th and Ridge Avenue. My parents were separated when I was at the age of 5, and I didn't see my father again until I was 50. Wow. And so that's a long period of time, but the community in which I grew up in, which was public housing, they were the ones that helped to nurture me as well, because there were a lot of people that were leaders and in leadership positions that could see somebody with potential. Right. And say, hey, look, young man, here are the things that you need to do. I didn't start out as an athlete. I just started out as a kid playing sports. Mm-hmm. And I happened to go to 25th and Diamond, which is Moreland Recreation Center, which is almost like a mecca in Philadelphia, where a lot of the great ball players at least started or participated. And there I went from the projects to playing on the 25th and Diamond or Moreland Recreation basketball team. I was one that was selected by Coach Otis Reese, who thought that I had the potential to be possibly a pretty good and a decent ball player. And he also recognized, he also recognized that I was a good student. So
that's it now, but that's amazing, because we hear, young people today hear that it takes a village to raise a kid, but that's like, kind of old schools to them. But see, that's what's missing to me in our society today, because it took some people outside of even your family structure. You need more than just that, because once you go out that door, parents are not with you. So some kids listen to their parents, and when they go outside the door, they keep that. And other kids, they listen to the parents while they was in the house. When they get outside the house, if there's nobody else around there kicking them around about stuff, then they can get sidetracked. And so that was amazing that not only did you have someone say, hey, man, check this out, or here's a positive place to go. You had someone that said, hey, not only that, I see something in you, and to start encouraging you, because you have a lot of kids now that don't feel encouraged. I have a sense of kids, especially African-American kids, not feeling that people believe their value is there, that's coming along and not only just talking at them, but actually communicating with them at their level to say, hey, you have something special and I'm willing to even invest something to make it happen for you. So that's great. Go ahead.
And in my particular case, I had the opportunity to see guys that were doing exceptionally well as athletes. I had the opportunity to at least grow up and be around a guy like Clyde West, who during Wilt Chamberlain's sophomore year, Clyde West was the second leading scorer in the country behind Wilt Chamberlain, and he went to Cheney State University.
Right.
So I had the opportunity of seeing him. And then I saw Guy Rogers, who did not live too far from me, who was a phenomenal athlete.
Right.
And Wilt Chamberlain, who also had come to Moreland Recreation Center, along with Ray Scott, to participate and play, along with Sonny Hill and T. Parham. Those were the kind of guys that were around that saw me and saw that I had potential.
Wow. Now you just named some names for the Philadelphia crowd. You just named some names that, I'm familiar with, obviously being from Philadelphia and growing up and being interested in the history of those people. Now, one of the things I wanted to bring up on that point you just brought up that I see in young people today too, is there's this not wanting to know the history. And I just know for sure that my development came from wanting to know. I wanted to know about the Teddy Blunts, the Sonny Hills, the T. Parham, and people like that. I wanted to know about these guys I was hearing about. I wanted to know who were the best players, who did what, when, where. So I was fortunate enough where I lived at South Philly that there was a Landry schoolyard that on Saturdays and Sundays, I never knew who would show up at that place, man. But one day I was about 10 and a car came up and you mentioned one of the names, two of the names. Car drives up, pulls up to the fence right there to this little concrete court, but nothing special. And the first guy gets out. The guys on the street, I didn't really know who it was at first. He said, man, hey, man, that's Al Adams. I said, dang, I heard that name before, right? Then the next guy gets out the car, the other side, it's Guy Rogers. Man, that's Guy Rogers, man. I was like, dang, man, he must be good the way these guys are acting. Then the third guy get out and he keeps getting and getting and getting. I said, man, when that guy got out that car, I was like, man, I ain't never seen nobody that big in my life. Look at that guy. That's Wilt Chamberlain. What? So that influence is powerful. And I think today, because the young people everything's so structured today that they don't intermingle as much. The young people don't intermingle with the old heads. Like you were talking about 25th and Diamond, which is a place I matriculated through Reggie Kitchen, who gave me permission, because we had a little gang problem here and there. So permission to come to 25th and Diamond. You just could mosey on over to 25th and Diamond, especially if you live in South Philadelphia, you better have some permission. So anyway, because that's the projects is over there, like where you lived and all that stuff was out there. You better know somebody if you go to 25th, more outside of where, that area. They don't know you. But anyway, it's a lot of people that was there and doing things or whatever that was really good in basketball or whatever, but they intermingle, like you said, some of the names you named are older than you and, were a little down the road in basketball than you were. But they allowed you to commingle, and that commingling rubs off on you too in a certain way. These old heads, I call them my old heads, because we couldn't wait till in the summertime when these guys got off the work. Guys got their stuff from the cleaners, or they got their shirts, starch shirts hanging on the side of the fence because they done came from work and they ready to ball out, man. And the young boys is over there, and we're like, yeah, come on over here, But they trained us, they taught us, and they built a certain thing in us, and and that it's just interacting with them.
Grow up. The thing that you mentioned that was so significant, when I was a senior in high school, and I was the player of the year through the Markwood Club in Philadelphia, Guy Rogers and Al Adams would come to my house on the weekends for me to just chase them around because they wanted a fast guard that could almost stay with them as they dribbled the ball.
Wow.
And the thing that was amazing about that, then I ended up going to Winston-Salem thanks to a guy that was the backcourt mate of John Chaney, Leon Whitley at Franklin High School when they won the city championship. And it was also John Chaney that recruited me to come to the Landry Playground to play against the Earl Monroe and the Watusi Cards and the Matt Jacksons. And I'm playing with a bunch of old guys. I'm the young guy on the team, and we win the championship in the Landry Playground. And you could only play to 50. So the first team that got the 50 won the game.
Wow.
And it went all the way down to the end. The score was 47-48. They fouled me. Chaney told me to make the first foul shot, missed the second foul shot. I said, why? He said, we're going to lock everybody down. You could walk down and get the ball and lay it in, and we win the game. And that's how we won the game.
Wow, what a story. That's why John Chaney became a good coach. He was thinking back then. He had strategies back in those days. But,
and then a lot of the guys from South Philly all of a sudden adopted me. And then I used to play at 4th and Shunk as well as the Marion Anderson Center.
Yeah, you named all the spots, man. 4th and Shunk, all those matriculations for me that, you know, basketball was like that in those days. You carried your wares to test it everywhere. You had to play down 4th and Shunk, you had to play over the Marion Anderson, you play over the Chris Street Y, you go out 25th and down, you know, Barrett Junior High School, Landry, Smith played and
the other thing that happened for me was I was
able. I got to put Haddington in there for they be mad about.
Oh yeah, Haddington. Yeah,
you had to stop. If you can play, you can play. You gotta go over Haddington and see what's going on with what you're talking about. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and then don't forget 5th and Allegheny.
So, 5th and Allegheny. Yeah. So
and basketball. Then there was A in Champlain, you know, where they had the summer league. Right. And I ended up being one of the few Black guys playing on white teams then. So I was sort of like a barrier breaker, you know, like Guy Rogers and like Sonny Hill, that ended up being picked up by white teams to play against other white ball players at a time when that didn't happen too often, because we tended to only play against each other. And so the team from Green Parrot picked me up, and the guy that I played with in the backcourt there was Herb McGee, who became a phenomenal player at one of the colleges. I can't even remember now.
Yeah, but Herb McGee, definitely a great player. But so when you're thinking about your history, so you go from Philadelphia as the player of the year, and then you get somebody looking out for you, and you get an opportunity to go play, not just anywhere, but to Winston-Salem, where they have a gentleman who becomes, and you know, was building his way to be legendary, but just his name by itself, Clarence Big House, right there. You know, this guy ain't messing around. Clarence Big House, baby, Gaines, right, was your coach. And so tell me how that was when you interacted with him going down into Winston-Salem.
Well, it all started from Coach Gaines seeing me at a pickup basketball game in Philadelphia that was created due to Leon Whitley, who was also responsible for recruiting and sending a lot of ball players to Winston. And I'll mention some of those later. But he saw me play, and he said that he wanted a ball player that could guide a team on the court and that could also score, and that was not afraid to take chances. And so he saw me, he saw that I could handle the ball and that I could lead a team. And at the same time, he was losing the first HBCU ball player drafted #1 in the NBA, and that was Cleo Hill.
Wow.
And so his team was projected to finish last in the CIAA. But most people think I was offered a scholarship. No, I was offered an opportunity for a scholarship, providing I could make the team.
Right, you got to be able to play, man. You doing it real nice, but man, can you play? All right, we'll give you a scholarship. We find out you can play, but go ahead, man. I'm gonna interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah, there wasn't no can you play, and so for the first 2 weeks while I was at school, I did not have a meal ticket. I did not have a place to sleep. And then an alumni game occurred, and some of the greats from the past came back. And at that one particular game, I wasn't even starting, and he put me in the game, and I put on a show. And from that point on, I started every game until I graduated.
Wow.
And then I said to the coach, I got big sick now. So I said, I'm going home if I don't get a scholarship. He said, wait a minute. And they turned around and they offered me a scholarship. And hopefully I've done a lot to repay that, both to the school.
Well, Big House Games, they never called him a dummy. So he's a smart man. He's just like, I know talent when I see it. This boy can play. That's what I was saying. When you can play, it eliminates a whole bunch of this. Wait a minute, this guy, not only can he play, but a lot of guys play basketball, but it's knowing what to do. That's, and when you have the ball and you can make the ball, because one of my definitions for dribbling is the ability to make the ball come up at the speed you need when you need it. This is what I tell young people today. Say, oh, dribbling. I say, man, no, don't talk to me about dribbling. Dribbling is to make that ball come up at the speed you need, whatever you're doing. It could be whatever it is that you need. If you can make that ball pop up at that time, guess what it does? You don't have to look at the ball. Anybody that has to keep kind of looking where the ball is at, they put it down, but they don't know when it's coming up. That's why people look at the ball, because you dribbled it, but you like your touch ain't right, and that ball ain't coming up at the speed you need. You be looking where the ball at, And so I tease kids with that all the time. Once you get that ball, so here you are, a guy that when you put the ball down, the ball comes back at the speed you need. Now you don't have to worry about the ball. See, I know that because I was fortunate enough to have that gift too. I put the ball down, I ain't worrying about the ball. Ball's coming back up just the way I wanted to come up. The question is, I got speed. You had speed. So when you dribbling and you ain't got to worry about the ball, you can see the court. The dude could be right on you. That don't mean nothing. I got the ball protected right over here. Blah, 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 blah. I'm seeing the court. I'm telling guys where to go. I'm playing basketball like I don't have a basketball and I got it right in my hand dribbling with defense. But it's like I don't have the ball because I'm acting like I don't have nothing in my hand. And so a player like you, that's what I watch when I watch the players that I said, man, that guy's good. I watch how they handling that ball. They're making that ball come up. And I didn't even know that at that time. Like I learned a lot of these techniques I'm talking about now from my touch glove, my science and studying and technology involved with what my glove does to improve your touch and all that stuff. But, and I study the game that way now. But I realized that people that could do that, they're some of the greats in basketball. Now, I'm going to tell you a quick story. I go to breakfast. So Sonny Hill, the founder of the greatest summer league, professional summer pro league, the Charles Baker League, my mentor, he started, and I was one of the first stars of his, that when he started a youth league, the Sonny Hill League, which, was the best players in the area all came to one place to play, the Sonny Hill League. You was a good player in that whole area, not just North Philly, South Philly, West Philly, wherever you were, you in Philadelphia area, you supposed to be a baller, you play in the Sonny Hill League, you're good enough to play in there. And so Sonny comes out here for a reason, and Guy Rogers is out here. I forget exactly why we were all, something that we were going to go to together or whatever it was. So we're sitting at breakfast. Guy and I had established a relationship at this point in my life. I was out here coaching, obviously, at UCLA in the time, at that time. And so we're sitting there talking. So we're talking about dribbling. So Sonny says, yeah, man, Guy Rogers, he was the man. So I said, yeah. So he said, Andre, good as you dribble, see this man right there across the table right there? When he dribbled the ball, ain't nothing like it, something like that. So I said, wait a minute, Sonny. Now, I don't know. You're going a little too far. He said, no, I'm not. So guys over there kind of, bashful, about the situation. He don't want to, over push it. So he's just kind of laughing at Sonny. He said, come on, Sonny, like that. So I said, no, man. Because when I played basketball, just like I explained to you, basketball to me was run around the court, do whatever. If I need to score, get over here, get over there, do it. And never worry about the basketball because it's coming up at the speed I need when I need it. And I can put it anywhere I want to go. And then when I threw a pass or something, the touch was always on it to hit the player. My passes had names on it. So if I'm throwing a Teddy Blunt, I throw it one way. I throw it to Peter over here. I put that touch on it for Peter, this one for that one. So here you telling me this guy is, and so I'm dribbling a basketball like I don't have a basketball. And you saying this guy is dribbling it, better than that. He said, so guy sitting over there, and the way I was just looking at the guy, he was laughing, but I was saying, you know what? That's right, real, because he's sitting over there like, he right, Andre, but I ain't, you know what I mean? I ain't trying to bust no bubbles or nothing, but that's an amazing thing that when you have those type of skills and you have those type of people around. So, but I want to get back to Winston Salem. So now you at Winston Salem, you become the man.
This is my first year, and
Right.
I become the first ball player in the history of Coach Gaines coaching to ever start for him.
Wow.
And that was my freshman year.
Wow.
And he has never started a freshman. And we win the conference my freshman year after being projected
to be
finish
last place. I didn't forget that. I was waiting to hear how y'all finished after that last place speculation.
And the mere fact that everybody all of a sudden was saying, how did Coach Gaines find this ball player
Right.
that was from Philadelphia that could, A, number one, I could guard somebody. B,
Right.
I led the conference in steals. On my team, I was third in rebounds. So, I could rebound, I could steal, I could guard somebody, I could score, and I could make other people scorers and score better because I could find them in the positions where they could get the best shot.
Let me bring something up on that point. That's the other thing about Philadelphia and this commingling. I keep bringing this back for a purpose because in today's AAU world, yeah, they can get some of the best players if they age group together. There's no doubt about it. They bring guys from, South, North, West Coast. They bring them all together in this AAU ball. But nobody in the group has more knowledge than the other person, the other kids. They only know what they know. And they all know basically the same thing. But when we play basketball, this is what I call the eye view. This is why you're valuable, because you have an eye view of your time all the way through basketball to now. Not everybody has. That's why they can't appreciate a Wilt Chamberlain or the Big O and some of these people and the Earl Monroes of the world and Teddy Blunts, that they can't appreciate it because they didn't have an eye view. So since they don't have an eye view and they don't want to know history, they don't know anything, that they should know. But the point is that we were taught all aspects of the game. Because when you play, and I know this is true for you, when you're at 25th in Diamond Observation Center, and it's 100 people over there waiting in the pickup games to come up next. Who got next? Boom. So if you lose, you're gonna be sitting for a while. So you
lose, you go home.
Yeah, this is like life and death to win the game. So if you're a young boy, you better know all the tenets of the people you playing with. They don't want to give up the baseline, the pick and roll, box out, fast break. Make sure you got spacing on the break. Don't be running all close to the guy in the middle. Bring the ball up the middle of the court when you get it. If you're the one running in the middle. All these things that you knew you had to know, to play basketball. Now you can just be athletic. You can dunk and you can make shots and do all that, but you don't know the game. You don't really know all the tentacles that makes it happen. So you come down to Winston-Salem, they're throwing a back because you come from an environment where you were required to know all this stuff about basketball. You better know what a pick and roll is, a give and go. You better know what boxing out is. You better know to bring the ball down the middle of the court. You better know when to cut to the basket for the layup. You better know all this defensively, how to cut a guy off and, all these things. Because if you were that young guy on that team, which I had been, they looking for you to, if something happened, say, young boy, guard your man, don't let him go baseline. What's wrong? They on you about every little thing. So you get that stuff in your head and you don't want that to happen no more. Where they get to say that you was responsible for the reason why y'all had to go home. And because when you come out of the game, you say, hey, Joe, you got your 5? Who's next? Joe and them got the next one. Hey, Joe, you got your, oh man, I got my 5, man. Hey, who's after them? Oh, Harry. Man, I got my 5, Dre. Dang. You know, if you go down 3 or 4 people, after a while, you know, that's why you said go home, because when you went down to the 4th team that's playing, got winners, they all got their 5. They got good players out there that you want to do. One more little point I want to bring up, though, that has something to do with that time too, is that the ability to make players better. And part of it was before you even play with guys, you watch guys, because this was important to me. The guy will be picking, when I pick my teams, I pick to win. You know, I know I'm not gonna pick this guy, you know, why aren't you picking Harry? He can shoot. Yeah, he can shoot and all like that. It's cool. But this boy over here, all he do is rebound and play defense. Now we got another scorer over here. We got this guy. We got a rebounder. You know, you build your team so they fit together. So you learning something in that process of knowing how to pick a team. You just don't get, that's my friend, I'm gonna pick him. No, some of my friends, they ain't roll on the team for the winners. You know what I mean? I got this other guy over here. Just because he's a friend, if he don't play a certain way, say, man, no, man, Gregory, he shoot too much. He's just gonna come down, pull up no matter what. So if I want to win, I might not pick Gregory. Now, if he's the only one left, all right, man, come on, man, but don't be taking all them shots. But if somebody else is there and I say, man, this guy here, I like what he's doing. So you become like a general manager as a kid, almost kind of knowing, pick this guy, pick that guy. So it teaches you to value people, value situations, and then knowing how to get the best out of them. That is the trait that's so valuable for, if you and I were playing in today's game and they looking for these guys that, well, this is what we talking about. Because I watched, I said, dang, man, I was born, I would, you know, I ran a team like I was running a corporation. I mean, you know, I knew how to get the ball to everybody, when to get it to them, what time, the tempo of the game. That's things that we learn. See, they very rarely, they talk about tempo now in relationship to players being able to, like Doncic, you know, he plays at a certain pace, but I'm talking about the whole game where you know when to slow the game down. This team wants to run, I'm gonna slow this down, or I'll mismatch it. See, I was the master of the mismatch. You know, if I'm playing and I said, oh, he guarding Teddy, Jimmy's guarding Teddy, give me the ball. I ain't trying to do nothing. Hey, Teddy, go over there and square this guy up, because he can't guard you. You're supposed to know that, but I'm telling you, he can't, man, get the ball. They got to call timeout or get somebody to switch up. Man, you pick up Teddy, because I'm going to keep going to Teddy till that happens. See, they don't play like that today. The big man get the ball today, he happened to be in the post, which ain't that often, but when they get one that's in the post, throw it in there, boom, he scores. That guy might not see the ball for the next 5 minutes. But in my team, the next time down till they stop him, he gonna get the ball. Hey, Drake, no, man, don't talk to me. This boy just took this dude to the hole like it was nothing. I'm going right back to him again. Or Teddy got him isolated. He cannot stop him from getting to the basket. So the basketball that you grew up in, and I was a beneficiary of that generation right after you. That's how I learned the game, man. That's what made me a valuable commodity, because I was taught the game from bottom. You guys carried on the tradition of basketball, and it matriculated to a person like me watching you. And like I told you, when I watched you at the Baker League, because we would play our Sonny Hill games first. A lot of guys go home, chase the girls, whatever, after the game. No, not Andre. I was going to class. Once my game was over, I'm getting me a seat. The guy's talking, okay, blah, 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 blah. No, I'm getting me a seat. I'm going to sit over here and study these dudes here. Why?
Well, the thing that was interesting about the Baker League, the first 3 years after I graduated, I didn't play any basketball.
Right.
You see, because I had a foot ailment. So therefore, I had the opportunity to play and be sick for life, or to just rest for the next 3 years. And my third year, when I was in graduate school, I played for Nate Ben Reliable.
Yeah.
And that was the only pro team, theoretically, that did not have an NBA ball player on it.
Right.
And we won the regular season without a pro ball player.
Wow.
But I had Walt Bird and I had Hubie White. Really? So I had a shooter from the outside and I had a penetrator going to the basket, and I was a point guard. And then I had another shooter over on the side. So I knew their roles, and they
Right.
knew that I knew their roles. And if they were in a position to get the ball, they would. Walt Bird ended up being the most valuable player that year
Oh yeah.
because he's getting layups.
Oh yeah.
Hubie White comes
He
in
can run.
second.
Yeah.
Yes.
He
And
can
Hubie
run the
White
floor
becomes,
all day long and finish. So if you got somebody like you to get him the ball, he's gone. And all you got to do is hit him. He knew how to navigate. Once you get him the ball in the right place where he can operate on a break, he can
yeah. And here he averaged over 30 points a game, you know, and playing with a guy that hadn't played in 3 years.
Right.
Right. But Claude Gross was smart enough to say, hey, look, if I could ask him to play and he's willing to come out and play, he said, I think we got a shot to win. And that one year we won the Baker League. Now, I didn't play that many more years in the Baker League because of other things that I had chosen to do.
Right.
But it was the Baker League. But prior to that, my junior and senior years were the years with Earl Monroe at Winston Salem. And most people don't realize that Earl's freshman year, he only played about 3 minutes a game, right? And he was claiming to go home after the first year because he wasn't scoring or he didn't get an opportunity to play. I happened to recognize in one game against Jackson State, when we were down 15 to 18 points, and I said to coach, put Earl in the game. Earl gets in the game and scores close to 20 points in 8 minutes. And now, again, the next game, Earl didn't play again and probably didn't play much more during the regular season because we had other guys that could do comparable things like score 20, 25 points a game, outside shooters, inside shooters, penetrators to the basket, defensive players. But then when Earl got to be a sophomore, he got to play with me in the backcourt. And that's when and that was my senior year. And we both made all conference together. And people saw it. You go from 3 points a game to almost 30 points a game.
Yeah.
That's a phenomenal change. But again,
where did he go home to in the summer? Back to
South Philly.
Yep. I lived 4 blocks from Earl Monroe. So I used to
26 in Manhattan.
Yeah, I used to see him, you know, right there in living color. But he
and guess what? But guess what? I worked with the Road Gang at 25th and it's 26th in Federal Street. I was working as a gang, as a person to work with juvenile gangs. My job was to settle them down so that they didn't get into fights. And the advantage I had was a lot of the guys in South Philly knew me. That made it so easy for me to get in, to work with the young people, to get them involved in other things, get them jobs, get them into the military. Now, a year later, a guy that was standing next to me got shot in the head. And then that's when I realized maybe it might be a good idea for me to go to grad school. So,
you got to know timing in life is important, you know, and every station is not a final station. So you go somewhere, it taught you some things, you help some people. It's time to move on, and you know, God's blessings that you know that was the time to move on. But I wanted to
the thing that was funny about it was the first job that I had gotten when I graduated from college was at Crime Prevention Association. And the guy that got me the initial opportunity to go to Winston-Salem, Leon Whitley, was the same guy that got me the first job. And he's the same guy that helped me to get into graduate school a year later.
Wow. Well, you know, good people make good people, you know, good people that help other people, good things happen. And I've heard other stories of Leon Whitley, you know, stuff that he's done for others too, you know. So he was a man that looked out for talent. He was a man that wanted people, Black kids and boys and girls, to succeed. And that's the kind of people, you know, sometimes we're missing now, that, you know, we don't have that. But the Road Gang, I got to tell this funny story, man. So I live at 22nd and Mann. So one night, you know, in the summer, I used to sit in the window, and I had an uncle that was from 21st and Tight Gang. Okay. So the road, they would come down Landry sometime. And, you know, but in those days, guys had a little respect if you played ball. They know, that guy's a ball player, you know, because they come over to get ready to jump. He said, no, man, that dude play ball. He'd be over here all the time. Let him go. But this particular night, the guys from 21st and Titan, there was a grocery store, and then Riddick's, Dave Riddick and all those,
Dave
they
Riddick.
had a little store that everybody would go to after they played at Landry. If you go over to that store, that's where I got all my history lessons, right? Sitting on the steps, just sitting there listening to all the old heads talk about, man, Oscar's better than Jerry West, this one, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, the whole thing. That's where I would go sitting. They get sandwiches out of Riddick's store and sit sodas and with chips in there and sit over there and talk for 2 or 3 hours after we play. But anyway, this night, Miss Kane's store was a little confectionery store right across this little street, Manton Street, and they're sitting on the corner talking trash, whatever, about 4 or 5 guys. So I'm looking out the window and I look down, and it's dark out a little bit, but the Landry was right behind my house, like literally the backyard, and then it's Landry. And I saw like a beehive of guys coming, like flooding the area. I was like, oh man. So I almost like, hey man, I almost wanted to holler, but I was so scared. I was looking, and these guys are coming like warriors. So the guys from 21st and Titan, they look up, Danny and some of these other guys that was real kind of fast guys. They look and they started running this way, like scattering, like, mice or something, running after somebody hit the floor. This one guy named Sonny, he didn't pay attention enough. He's still running his mouth and talking. He wanted to, hey man, I ain't scared of y'all, this, that, and the other. When he realized how many people was coming, how many of them boys was coming with bats and everything else that they had, he started running. And when he got to 22nd Street, he was like, the cars were coming. So he couldn't get across the street. This dude backs up, and I'm not lying, man. He was so scared, he jumped over a car. Teddy, I tell you, it was the most, I'm sitting right in the window. And his name was, they used to call him Sonny Banyan, right? So that's what he said. He's talking about, I ain't scared of y'all, I'm Sonny Banyan. And it started running. I said, what's this boy getting ready to do, man? There ain't no way to get the cars. Too many cars are coming down the street because 22nd Street is kind of main thoroughway. He jumps over a car and he gets to the other side and turns and looks at them, yeah, blah, 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 and then start running whatever he's going. I said, man, I was happy though, because if they had got their hands on any of them guys that night, it would have been something. But you couldn't go down there. The furthest we could go was like 23rd and Ophir, which is Manton Street, Ophir Street. There was a store Italians owned on 23rd and Ophir. Now, the only reason a person like me, because we had Riddick's, we could get rice, and we had Jimmy's at 22nd and Ellsworth. But the only reason you would go to 23rd in Ophir was dangerous, because that's where some of the guys from the roads come in. You never know who you're gonna run into. Right. So we go over there, and so if my mom say, hey, get in here, I need some rice. So I go to Riddick's. I need a box of rice and whatever my mom sent me still. We fresh out, man. Riddick's, we fresh out. Man, dang. All right, go to Jimmy's. Hey, Mr. Jimmy, I need some rice and blah, blah, blah. Man, Andre, we just sold the last box about an hour ago. We just waiting for the shipment to come in. Oh man, because I'm thinking in my mind, I can't come home without that rice, because that's for dinner. So I said, dang, I got to go to 23rd over. So the only reason you went there was 2 reasons. One, to go down there to 23rd and over, because you had to get whatever hopefully they had it. And they had these glazed donuts, man. I'm telling you, those glazed donuts, almost like a Krispy Kreme level, but they was bigger. And man, when they came in fresh, you could smell them almost, man. That's the only way you take that risk to go down there. So the Rose, they was a tough little group of guys down there.
Oh.
You didn't want to mess with them, and they'll hurt you,
Well, plus, most people don't realize Earl Monroe's parents owned a small grocery store at 26 in Manton.
Wow.
They owned the corner store.
Wow, that's impressive.
Like when I worked there, I had a place where I could go and rest, I could hide, I could sleep. But because of my relationship with so many of the guys in South Philadelphia, even today, people think I'm from South Philadelphia. Right. That's how the relationship was with me and a lot of the guys from South Philadelphia. Leon, John Chaney, the Riddicks, all those guys, were from South Philly. Matt, right. Matt Jackson. So
Bobby Lewis.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you on the Earl Monroe front. So when the Baker League was really hot with Earl playing, I mean, it's all kind of stories, but one story, he's at McGonigal Hall, Temple's old gym. I'm waiting after finish playing the game before. Earl's supposed to be playing tonight. Gym is packed. The expectations are high. I mean, this gym, this is a college gym at the time, Temple's main gym that we have in the summer league, and that's amazing. Air conditioned. That's why it's one of the greatest summer leagues, because it was air conditioned, there's stands, this is the real deal. And the pros coming from all over the NBA coming to play. But anyway, we getting up there. So the first quarter, Teddy comes, no Earl. The anticipation is like, oh man. So about 2/3 of the second quarter,
here he comes.
And he got this, the little lambskin wine holders. Guys used to have their little, he had a little wine holder. He's walking through, going to the locker room. Man, they go Black Jesus, they go, whatever they call them, the Pearl, this, that, and the other. So this dude comes out, man, and he put on the show of a lifetime, man. He scored 55 points from that point. By the time he got on the court, the second quarter almost over. To the end of that game, he scored 55 points. I'm telling you, man. And, I told Earl 2 things when I finally had an opportunity older, later on in life. I said, I'm going to tell you 2 things that you just need to hear from me. My opinion as a young kid and how much I, enjoyed what you did. And I said, you're the greatest player on land that didn't leave the air and that wasn't quick in the history of basketball. It couldn't have been anybody better, because all Earl would do, he wasn't beating nobody down the court. But if you went one way or the other, he gonna spin on you, man. You're gonna get spun on. So whatever you decide to do, you're gonna get spun on. So you could, it looked like you could just get it from him, because he just going bam, to bam, to bam. Then you go boom, spin on him. And then I told him, I said, I tell people, this is how I explain people about you, Earl. I got 2 tickets. I got 1 ticket over here is Michael Jordan. Exciting, dunk from the free throw line, this, that, and the other. Great, all this other stuff. And I got a ticket to go see Earl Monroe. Oh, I'm going to see Earl Monroe. You can have the Michael Jordan ticket. I'm going over here. I want to be entertained. This dude putting on a show I haven't seen. So I got 1 play. So we in Bright Hope, not McDonald. We used to play in this church, the Bright Hope Church. Had a little stand.
Bill Gray, Congressman Bill Gray.
Yeah, Congressman Bill Gray hooked that up. And so we're in this pack, man. It's hot. And we met this guy, one of my best friends. He was kind of a street guy that really knew everybody, man. So we come in, everybody, hey, they go out there in the car, they go Bruce, he know everybody, slapping hands, whatever. So we got to find us a little seat. We get in there, we meet this guy named Wally. I don't know, he just kept on saying over and over, water rule the world. Water, not fire, not something else, water. This is the guy sitting behind, water, rule the world. Now he came in, he had a derby on, he was kissing babies and all kind of stuff. So this is a character, man. Anyway, Bobby Lewis's team is playing against Earl. So they going back and forth. So Bobby Lewis, this one play, and this is when I learned this move in particular. Bobby Lewis is coming down on a fast break, a 2-on-1. He goes to the basket and he takes his arm and wraps it around to throw it behind the back pass. And I mean, it looked legitimate, like a behind the back.
He pulled it back.
Oh man, I had never really seen it that way. The way he did timing of it, Teddy, you know what I mean? Sometimes you could do it, but other guys might have done it, but the timing, when he did it, the guy bit into it so much that he totally went to the guy he thought he was throwing the pass to. I mean, his defensive position completely committed to that pass to cut him off. And when he brought that thing back and laid it up, the crowd just went bananas, man. It was nuts. But they didn't run out on the court, though, on this one. They take it out, they throw it into Earl. As soon as Earl catches the ball, he had his back to whoever it was, he catches the ball. When he turns, a dude is right there. He spins on him. Another dude comes running into the play on this break that's going down. Earl spins back the other way on him, right? Now they coming down and it's a 3-on-1. Earl comes down court bam, 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 at Earl speed. These dudes are running. They horse races. I don't know if it was Watusi, whoever was on his team, they was running the lanes. One dude back. Somebody big, though, that was back. Johnny Postley, one of them type of guys. Big Ted Campbell, somebody like that was back. Anyway, Earl gets to the free throw line and throws the pass, but he didn't throw it. The ball left his hand, but he puts his hand and hits the ball with the back of his hand, right? The ball comes back to him. He spins it on his finger. I'm not lying, Teddy Blunt. He spun the ball on his finger and smacked it. He got the ball in his hand like this, then he smacks it to the guy in the lane. The dude, when he did this part, when he threw the pass, he bit all the way on that. It looked like the ball was traveling a little bit, but he caught it, the back of his hand, smacked it back to himself, and quickly spun it and smacked it over to the other guy. This guy that was back completely bought here. When he smacked it to the other guy, the guy that was on defense finally realized he didn't throw that pass. And when he turned to go to the other guy, it was too late, man. The other dude came in. I mean, he dunked that. Zoom. That was the end of the game. The people ran all out on the court. Black dudes, they took about 25 minutes to get there. I'm serious, man. The gym was packed, sweating, babies crying. It took about 25 minutes to get that game back in order. These people went, I mean, it was just the most amazing thing I had ever seen, you know, and it wasn't the fastest thing. It was just the artistry of it was just, it was beyond. So both of them, I mean, you know, Bobby Lewis had his bag of tricks too. The both of them just put on a show that night. I mean, they were just going back and forth with moves and just craftiness with the basketball. It's just legendary. But I want to move. Go ahead.
And I think that most people don't realize that Earl's senior year, as an example, anytime you average 45 points a game and you're shooting 66% from the field and 92% from the free throw line, and you're not taking but 24 shots a game,
right?
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And this was before the 3-point shot.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, he was both incredible, but the other thing that made Earl really interesting was he never lost track of who he was. He was always connected to the community. You could always reach out and touch him.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. He was never above the fray. So even though he was Earl the Pearl, he was really a person that the community accepted as theirs.
Yeah, oh, it's no question. I agree. Because if we go to a Baker League game, Earl could be just easily standing out there talking to people, you know, over here, over there, you know, waving to people, you know, like I said, you know, he had, you know, no problem coming down Landry. You know, I mean, he was, you know, even when he was drafted to the NBA, you know, he would still come down Landry and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean.
And then the other thing was that at Winston-Salem, his senior year, Winston-Salem was so good, they moved Wake Forest out of the Coliseum because white folks wanted to see Earl Monroe, not just black folks. So all of a sudden you go from a facility that could only accommodate, let's say 2,400 to a Coliseum that accommodates 10,000 people.
Wow.
Because of the interest this one person was able to generate for not only the city, but for the state of North Carolina. And it was during a time when, you know, black folks and white folks moved into separate quarters. You know, you had to sit in one place versus another place. There were separate bathrooms at the time. So, I mean, when I came along, it was really separate and unequal. So there was the water fountain, there were the bathrooms, there were the beaches, even the jobs. And in Winston-Salem in the state of North Carolina, Earl Monroe brought white folks and black folks and brown folks together.
Wow.
Along with Coach Gaines, who really led that kind of group of people.
Let me take you forward. I want to ask you real quickly about a couple players I'm gonna just throw out. I want to ask you about Wilt, and I want to ask you about Oscar Robertson, and I want to ask you about Kobe Bryant. And so on the Wilt front, you know, I talk to kids that just, oh, you know, so they don't know. So I said, look, I don't know what to tell you. Michael Jordan, they had the argument at the 50th, when they picked the 50 best player. Bill Walton tells the story. They picked the top 50 players. And they were at the event, and Wilt and Jordan get into a discussion about who's the best, whatever. So now the story changes. I'm gonna just say it the way I kind of remember. They're in the locker room. Everybody's leaving out to go out on the floor to accept their, invitation to be on the, their top 50 players of all time. So the first time they come in, they still talk, they still argue. So I think it was, I don't know if it was, I think it was whoever the commissioner was at the time, comes in and says, hey man, we ready to start the ceremony. Michael Jordan, they're still going in. So supposedly they were saying, well, what impact did you have on the game? So now we know that Wilt in high school could dunk from the free throw line for his free throw shots, was catching jump shots that could have been array a little bit and dunking those. They had to create the 3-point, lane, widen the lane, because you get in there and you can't stop it. And it goes on and on. And then, when you look at the record books, so I would tell kids, look, this guy scored 100 points in the game, man. So I was fortunate enough, I did an interview with Will. I haven't released it yet, but I did an interview with Will. And in the interview, I said to him, I said, look, Will, you scored 100 points in the game. Amazing. You had 55 rebounds in the game. Not against Teddy Blunt, Andre McCarter, but against Bill Russell. 55 rebounds. What the heck? This guy averaged 50 points a game. So you know how Will leads him. Andre, you did your homework. Good job. But you forgot one thing. I averaged 48.8 minutes a game for a season. What? So that means some overtime was thrown in there because the game was only go 48 minutes a game.
48 minutes. So
what I said to him was, I said, well, Will, tell us about the conditions that you did this under. So he started talking about, so first of all, like you go to Boston, they would have the locker rooms freezing cold. Or,
or too hot.
Yeah, or too hot or whatever. And then he said, when I would go to the hotel, the beds were made for people, little people, when it was shower time, I couldn't fit in the showers. When we get on the airplanes, they didn't have the first class like they have it now. So I used to he's gotten in a position too. He said, I used to take my knees and to get comfortable, I just would bend over and hold, so my knees wouldn't rub up too much against the thing. And, and then I said, but what about when, you get a Charlie horse or a little tweak here and tweak, say, hey man, I played through it, whatever, do what I had to do. So the durability, a lot of people say, oh, well, because these young guys, I say, you guys, you're being really stupid right now, okay? You can play, if you score 50 points in an elementary school game against kids, you're going to be worn out getting 50 against them. You know what I mean? He got 50, 100 points, but he averaged 50 points a game for a full season. That's an endurance level that's out there. Nobody, you talk about Michael Jordan, this one, that one. I mean, that alone to me, and then you go the whole season under the conditions that he went in, and then being recognized everywhere. You can't take a nap nowhere, do nothing. Every time you move somewhere, you Wilt Chamberlain. You can't hide, you can't be regular at all anywhere. So, and you expected to get 40, 50, and 20 something rebounds, and block 5, 6, 7, 10 shots. So, it's just amazing. But what's your thoughts? You saw him eye view.
I think when people start to talk about the greatest of all time, you got to say, well, how do we want to look at it? Are we talking about the individual in terms of his or her ability to do different things? Now, if we're talking about the individual, all the points that you just mentioned are categories that nobody else can even come close to. Right. That's an individual statistic. Right. Michael Jordan can't touch that.
Right.
So Michael Jordan will say, but I got 6 rings. Well, if you want to use the ring argument, Bill Russell's got 11. So who do I pick as the greatest? As a team player, I pick Bill Russell. Right. And also, Bill Russell had a greater assortment of team players around him. Exactly. In terms of skill sets that Wilt Chamberlain didn't have
Right.
until he got that team with Luke Jackson and Chet Walker
Right.
and Wally Jones and Hal Greer.
Right.
Now, and then the second time he won, he was playing with the Lakers. He had Jerry West.
Right.
So you got to look at what's the skill sets that
Right.
each player brings with them. I mean, Michael Jordan, as great as he was, cannot compare statistically with Wilt.
Right.
And he can't compare statistically with Russell. And
Right.
then if you want to throw in two more championships, Russell won 2 at the University of San Francisco.
Exactly.
So now you got 13.
Yeah.
And the only other person that have fewer rings than Bill Russell is Sam Jones, who's got 10.
Right. Wow. So
Now,
yeah.
so again, I mean, I'm not saying Michael wasn't attractive. I'm not saying he
Oh yeah,
wasn't a good ball
there's
player.
no question with the stuff that Michael did. But I try to tell guys too that I said, and I'm going to lead this into Kobe. The mindset that these guys had, Michael Jordan and Kobe, are commendable in the times that they came along. But all the guys I played against seemed like they was almost on that level as far as coming tenacity wise. I mean, Kobe and them did not make me feel like it was Superman in their mentality, that Mamba mentality. Everywhere I could go to Barrett Junior High School. Them guys down there act like you can't come down here and get nothing. You ain't getting nothing down here on Jim Crow. We don't care nothing about you, nothing. You ain't getting nothing. You had to come down there and take something. Everywhere you went to all these places we was naming, you couldn't just go down there just because you good and all like that. No, you got to take it because guys was coming at you hard as you ever could imagine. So you already, that mindset that they talking about there is unique because that's the way the game changed. And guys, like I said, young players weren't matriculating around the old guys, but when you around all these old guys growing up and playing, you got that fight to win and battle to the end, and a mindset to go get it, to do extra, to put the work in, all that stuff like that. You was trained and bludgeoned basically. If you want to stay and hang in the situation, you better get all that stuff secured in your game, or you're not. So it doesn't bother me. But I want to ask you about what did you think
wait a minute, on your point there, think about the difference in time. Remember, during Wilt and Russell's time, you could physically guard somebody. You got your hands on the right hip, you got your hands on the left hook, and you weren't driving down the lane like it was 95.
Right.
Anybody that went to the basket, believe me, you paid a price.
Right.
There were no layups that were given at that time. I mean, it was like taking your life in your hand if you decided to do that. So when I look at the game today, nobody's touching anybody.
Right.
And so think about it. When I look at the ball players that exist today, the one that stands out to me is probably one of the smaller ball players, and that's Steph Curry.
Yeah.
He reminds me so much of T. Parham in terms of how he could see the whole court. He could handle the ball. He could use the pick and roll. He had a good outside shot. He could penetrate to the basket. He could do the floater. He could bank it off of the backboard.
Right.
So when I look at all the ball players together today in terms of the composition of their capabilities, Steph Curry reminds me of an old-time ball player playing in today's game. That's like taking Wilt in today's game, which was meant for Wilt Chamberlain because it was all about speed and physical strength. So you can't outrun Wilt because people forgot he was a quarter miler. He was a high jumper. Right. And then he best pressed over 400 pounds. So, I mean, I love Shaq, but Shaq would not have a shot against Wilt. He would not have a shot against a Bob Lanier, let alone a Wilt, a Walt Bellamy, And then you got so many ball players, again, because of the time. You look at them in their own capsule, but some of them can come out of those capsules.
Oh, it's no question. They're transcending. It's no question about transcending. There's certain players that for sure.
I mean, and you mentioned Oscar, but very few people talk about Elgin Baylor.
Right. No, I know.
I mean, and I tell people, I said, if you really want to see a movie, watch Elgin. Yeah. So there were two ball players that I would love to have seen. and I saw most of them because I know him personally, was Elgin and Earl.
Right.
Earl, because of his ability to understand the game, but most people couldn't guard him because of his style. You know how you, like people used to dance off time?
Right.
Well, that's Earl.
Yeah,
Earl's
exactly.
off time.
He's
You
off
can't
time.
keep up with a person
Right.
that doesn't run normal.
Yeah.
You know,
You can't figure it out.
and he had the uncanny ability to get to the basket. You couldn't guard him. You touch his right hip, he go left. You touch his left hip, he go right. He pumps you, and then he goes under you.
Right, and he get his jump shot off. I always tell people, I said, man, Earl jumping half an inch on that jumper and getting it over. Whoever was over there, he getting that shot off, and he jumping a half an inch. So it's just knowing when, the timing, and ability. Now Elgin is amazing pioneer in the game, but I did a story on an article I wrote on Elgin Baylor and LeBron James at the age of 28. So I took what Elgin was doing at 28. Hold on. And I took the LeBron at the age 20 and took his information. I built the article about it. I had Sonny come in, and Sonny had some good stories. He was telling one story about how strong Elgin Baylor's hands were. And he said that Jerry West used to do bets with people. The guys that come to town, especially them rookies, don't really know. He said, hey man, I give you $20 if you can smack the ball out of Elgin Baylor's hands. The guy said, no, I can smack it out of his hand. They go over there, Elgin get that ball, they be trying to pound that ball out of his hands because nothing ain't happening. But the key figure to me, when we talk about eye view, is that Chick Hearn. When they asked him, who's the greatest Laker of all time? He's talking about Elgin Baylor. There's no question about it. He goes right to Elgin, and so Elgin just, caught a bad break because everybody now is into this, well, you get a chip and all this stuff here. Basketball is a team game. You win chips with players, not one player.
That's right.
And so, and if he had stayed on the team, he would have got a championship then. He just happened to retire a little bit earlier. And then, but championships are, great players are made by the marks that they leave. How many times did the Lakers go to the finals, but they just ran into the Boston Celtics? This is just the way it was. So it doesn't make you not be a championship level ball player. It's just that you ran into a group of guys with one of the greatest centers of all time, one of the greatest shot blockers of all time, athletes, players, scientists of the game. Bill Russell was a genius in the way he played the game, reading rebounds, studying how the ball hits the rim, and all these great things that he did. And intellectually wise, playing the game of basketball, that's who you ran up with, and just a winner. You talking about mindset. Bill Russell came to win. So, Elgin and those guys, Elgin let them know. Now, Sonny said that Elgin, that when guys was playing against the Lakers, the guys that was guarding him be in the locker room, sure, damn man, I gotta guard Elgin tonight. I hope he ain't in a bad mood, because I'd rather get 30 on me instead of 50 something or 60. You know what I mean? That he might be dropping out here on me tonight. But when I did that comparison, I mean, Elgin missed 2 scoring titles where he's scoring 38 points and 20 something rebounds a game, man. Come on. I don't understand. People that really play basketball, I know energy. Games when I had 48, 50, I mean, man, this was some work. I had to recover because you playing hard, you out there, whatever. This guy is doing this every night. He's coming out here dropping loads all over the place. So the comparison was more just to say, hey, here's a guy, Elgin Baylor, like you said, that can do all the things that brought along the Dr. J's and the Michael Jordans and LeBrons and whoever else athletics you want to pick. This guy was doing it all ahead of time, and saved the franchise, saved his whole franchise. And it's an incredible story. Now,
and then the other was, you mentioned earlier, was Oscar Robertson.
Yes.
He could do so much with little. He had very little when he played with the Cincinnati Royals.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, he gets an opportunity to go to Milwaukee to play with a big fellow, a real legitimate big fellow that could score.
Right. Yeah.
And you could see the difference.
Right. Well, and this is the latter part of his career.
And I mean, you're talking.
God forbid if he had done it when he was,
Oh God.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if Oscar and Wilt were on the same team?
Oh,
I mean, just put those two.
It's over.
Yeah, and then
Wilt gonna get the ball all the times he needs to get it, and if you back off for Oscar, that's automatic. So I mean, and his knowledge of the game, his ability to see the game. I mean, it's just I was trained to be an Oscar Robertson. I mean, I had a guy, I don't know, a guy named TB.
Yeah, I know TB.
Okay. So, because he was a Guy Rogers guy. He loved Guy Rogers. But anyway, and Guy Rogers took him under his wing. But anyway, people didn't like me necessarily hanging around him at all. But anyway, he was somebody that just knew a lot of people. And so one day he said, you want to meet Oscar Robertson? And they had just done an article in the Inquirer about me. This is before players were going, to the NBA from high school. And they said, well, Andre McCarter, has the mental capability to go to the NBA. So I was like, okay, sure. But, because you didn't see yourself in the NBA. In other words, like if Kobe came along, he saw himself in the NBA because there's other players that went. So he could dream it. You know what I mean? You can dream something. You see, oh, well, dang, this guy went, he was a high school player. That guy, but we didn't have that. So to see a player go in is an amazing thing. So, but anyway, he invites me. He says, well, he coming to town. I'm going to take you over here to meet him. So we go up to the hotel. We knock on the door. And when the door opened, Teddy, I looked at Oscar Robertson. He said, this the young boy I was telling you about. He can play, man. He can play, Big O. So he said, oh, okay. Yeah, Andre, come on in. I looked at them shoulders and how big and strong. I said, this is a man here. I'm a boy. You know what I mean? I said, they said I'm going to go to the NBA and play against him. This is what I'm thinking to myself, Teddy. When I see this, when the door opened, as soon as I looked at him, I said, dang, that's Oscar Robertson. This is a this is a man, a grown man. You know what I mean? I can't see I don't know what I'm going to do with him, And, but that was a great thing. And he says, yeah, Oscar Robertson got $1 million in the bank. And he's telling me, oh, man, that's good. Well, he deserves it because he's the big. This is how you want to play. He always, TV, always, you want to play the whole game, offense, defense, just triple double stuff, get rebounds. I was expected to do everything. Rebound, score, assist, do it all, like the Big O. That was always in my head constantly, like do it like the Big O. That's how Big O plays, But
and then again, if you take into consideration going back to the 60s and the 70s, most people don't realize every game was an all-star game because there weren't but 10 or 12 teams.
Right.
Most people don't realize that. I mean, whereas today you got 30 teams.
Yeah.
So, I can lay off this team because they don't have anybody that can guard me versus I know that this night I got to play. Whereas going back to the days of Wilt and Russell in the very beginning, every game was an all-star game because every team had a legitimate star and you had to play hard every night.
Right.
I remember talking to Earl Lloyd, the first Black to play in the NBA, who also came from the CIAA.
Wow.
When he used to say they used to have the double hitters. You had Philly coming to town, you had Boston coming to town, and here he's saying, man, he said, tonight I got to guard Wilt and tomorrow I got to guard Russell.
Right.
And so, and again, guys weren't staying at the hotels because the hotels, most people forgot, were not open to Black ball players in certain cities, like St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, all the things that they had to go through to get to where they were, and God forbid the meal money was no more than $25 a day.
Right.
Whereas, that's a little intangible that most people don't even think about.
Right.
Number one, the kinds of planes that you have to ride in today versus yesterday. The mere fact that most of the trips to games were by bus or by train. The mere fact that the meal money was limited. The hotels weren't the greatest in the world. So those were the things that those guys played through in order to make what the guys today are living with. On top of that, they created a pension fund where people could begin to benefit. That's something that, people say, I see a salary. Well, salary is great, but at some point, you ain't going to be playing, the earmark money for your health care. Well, that all came about mainly because of a guy like LeBron James and CP3. Those are young guys that know the game, know the history of the game, that talk about how do we move it forward versus a new guy coming along that's 19 or 20 years of age. He could barely write his name.
Right.
Now those young guys are signing contracts with people around them with limited knowledge bases. As an example, if I graduate from high school and somebody puts a contract in front of me, I wouldn't know what I was signing. I don't have the advantage of having a good attorney to give me advice. I haven't gone to college. I can't get advice from a legitimate coach. So they're starting out at a disadvantage. And hopefully the NBA is smart enough to cradle those guys when they come in and say, number one, you need to get a good attorney and you need to get a good finance person.
Right. Yeah, you have to, because some of the big names, Tim Duncan and some others, they seem to be frugal guys, but they got hit. The agents hit them. $20 million gone. Can't figure out what happened to it. So you can imagine a guy he went to college for 4 years. So you imagine with a high school guy that's signing with people all around them saying this and that and the other. It's a tough thing.
And that's the one thing that makes Wilt more than any other athlete throughout the world ahead of his time. He realized his value. What is your value? Do you bring anything to the table? What are your assets versus what are your liabilities? Here, Wilt comes to the table and say, okay, if I'm going to be traded to LA, this is what I want. I want these 300 acres of land over here that I can acquire with the money that you want to give me to go to LA.
Right.
He acquires X number of acres. He builds his house at the top of the hill. All the houses around him are built on Wilt's land.
Right.
Now, how many guys really know the game like that? Now, and I really want to say that Michael Jordan financially was smarter during his time than a lot of the other guys. But there were other guys during Michael's time that were just as smart. They did just as well. They didn't have as much, but they did just as well.
Right. No, that's a good point. And speaking of that, I look at, I wanted to bring up Kobe because I look at him as a player that had a taste of Philadelphia, had an international flavor to it. And obviously, what happened to him, he is such a beloved player among the people out here in Los Angeles and, actually throughout the world. What did you think about him just as a player?
As a player, I thought he was probably one of the hardest working analytical players.
Right.
Not just hard players. He was analytical. Right. He thought through things that he was going to do. Right. He knew in advance that he was going to drive to the basket, or he was going to take a jump shot, or he was going to dunk on you, or go behind his back and make a left-hand layup.
Right.
He was basically an analytical talent.
Right.
So, like a savant.
Yeah.
On a basketball court playing against other guys.
Right.
And he challenged those like a LeBron, and he challenged those like a Michael that he saw as heir apparents to this major throne.
Right.
And he wanted to work as hard to be as good as they were.
Right.
Which was unusual.
Yeah.
And again, the people around him, because he worked hard, you had to work hard.
Oh, there's no question about it.
Yeah. You get a leader that works hard, then those that follow that leader will work hard.
Right.
When I was in college, Big House Gaines once said to me, he said, son, you're more than just a basketball player. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you are a leader. You have the ability to get people to do things based on your knowledge and your ability, and the mere fact that you're willing to put the time in to make it right. So I'm saying, Coach, what are you talking about? He said, trust me.
Right.
He said, life is short. And so he said, there is life after basketball. You need to prepare for life. You can only play basketball, but for so long, but you can lead for life.
Wow.
And when he said that to me, you know, I said, okay, coach. And then when I graduate from college, I go to graduate school, and then I began to process and think about the things that he said to me, and about how I was able to, at least in the communities in which I live, I've been able to make a difference, you know, starting out by, if I live in this block, I want this block to look nice. If I live in this neighborhood, I want this neighborhood to look nice. If I live in this city, I want this city to be better than it was before I got here. Amen. So therefore, you got to put your time in terms of, hey, look, you know, I got a skill set where people come together and they listen to what I have to say, because it doesn't just benefit me, it benefits all of us. Right. So when the whole benefits, everything is elevated. Mm-hmm. We tend to look at the piece. I look at the whole picture. Right. When you look at the whole picture, you know where the holes are. You know what you have to plug. You know those that are valuable and those that aren't valuable. People that bring nothing to the table, don't let them sit at the table, right, but they can be in the room. And so you get a coach that's able to say, hey, look, I see you in a different mode, right, versus just being an athlete, regardless of how good I might have been when I was in college, right, or even before college. He said, there is life after basketball. Wow. And he said, think about that. What do you do when you can't do that? Mm-hmm. You know, can you transition to the next phase of your life? Right. Can you be an asset in your community? Can you make life better for other people? Right. And because of that, you know, I was able to be elected to city council. I was able to be the president of city council. I was able to serve as the chairman of my college board, mm-hmm, and chairman of the endowment fund. You know, I was able to serve creating an agency that provided transportation for people with special needs. Wow. Before other states started to do that in Delaware. Right. You know, I was able to start Delaware versus Philadelphia All-Star games and did it for 15 years. Mm-hmm. And to take those All-Stars each year to maybe 8, 9, or 10 other cities. Wow. I developed relationships with all those kids, stressed the importance of, hey, look, if you want to be a star, go to class. Don't just hang around with athletes, hang around with smart people. Right. You know, there are a whole bunch of dumb people. You know, if you're the smartest person in the room, I would tell them, then you need to go to another room. Right. You know, you don't need to be in that room, right, unless you're imparting information and knowledge and you're providing training. So for me, my whole life has been about after basketball. Right. And what do I at least create as a legacy? See, what I've done is a legacy for my parent. Right. What my kids have done is my legacy. Right. And so I'm fortunate enough, like you mentioned earlier, I've got a daughter that's been the college professor at Rutgers University, professor of the year for 3 years. Wow. I've got a daughter that works at a nuclear power site that evaluates power plants around the world. I've got a daughter that was the first person of color and a woman to be a congressperson in Delaware, and Black folks only represent 20% of the population. Wow, that's incredible. So, yeah. So, and again, on top of all that, I've been married for 60 years, and to the same person. Woo-wee. That one's a real doozy there, because, man, people, you know, they have 1 or 2 differences, and before you know it, they're married and then they're unmarried. You know, they're going on the 4th wife. You know, yeah, I mean, and again, marriage is like anything else. You know, you get married because you're in love. Right. After a while, then it becomes a partnership. Exactly. It's not just about, you know, what's best for me, but what is best for all of us. Mm-hmm. So if you're married and you have a family, then your first responsibility has to be to your family. Mm-hmm. And if you're able to take care of your family, then when they grow up, then they'll be able to take care of their families. It's like my 3 daughters. I have 5 grandchildren, and 4 of them have already graduated from college. Wow. 1 has already graduated from graduate school and getting ready to go back and work on another degree. Another is getting ready to go back for a master's degree. Wow. And the youngest one, who's only 17, has already scored 1,400 or close to it on the SATs. Ooh-wee. Yeah. In the 10th grade. Mm. So again, my legacy is what was the foundation that I created for them, right, to move to the next level. Yeah, and great. In life, you become what you see. And if it's poverty, that's one thing. unless you can see what you want to become.
Right. Well,
So
I think the lessons, I think what we have garnered here today is that knowledge is power. That's what we're garnishing here. And wisdom and understanding go in the pot with it. Without those things, it's hard to decipher the way to go. And so I appreciate all the things that we've been able to cover and you've been gracious to share. We have covered basketball from top to bottom. I mean, if you don't know now, you don't want to know. You just floating through and you got your own ideology, that's fine. In life, you know, you can make things happen. Your attitude is important. In listening to you, I think your attitude played a lot in your success because, you know, you were willing to listen. See, listening is a powerful force. And I have one other thing I'm going to hit you up before we go. Oh.
let's stop video.
Yeah, hold on.
There you go. Okay.
You still there? You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay.
How do I get
I want to close out if we can. I don't know what happened, why I did that, but it happens. We will be able to.
See? Okay, you can see me, right?
No, I can't see you.
Okay, good job. Okay. I can see you.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, to finalize, you know, the point is because we have a lot of people whose attention span in today's world, you know, they don't have time for everybody's busy. And I just, you know, I refuse to just accept, but that's the way people are, you know. And so when I do things, I still think it's valuable to say what I believe and what I see and the value of those things. And you've been a testimony to that. I think also in our social justice times of today, that you represent the fact that the African American in America has done great things. For people to have a bad attitude towards the African American for whatever reason, it's just not justified. When we're intelligent, we're overcomers, we've you know, operated under undue stress, we've conquered situations, and you know, we've paid a price in us because many people haven't been able to navigate those waters that we face in our society when you know, you don't know why you didn't get the job, you know, why you can't go to this restroom, why you know, all the things, you know, make you feel like you're a lesser person because the person just doesn't want to deal. They don't want to go use the same bathroom. They don't want to, you know, let you come into a workplace, or they don't want you, they don't think you're smart enough. They don't think you're capable of doing things. So those people, that's why your attitude is important, because you have to know, like you said about Wilt, you got to know your value as an African-American person. You are valuable. You know, you have to keep love at the forefront. And I think when you keep love at the forefront, you don't, you know, revenge is not the important point. If you can have love, you can surge forward and create a better world. And I think that having a person like you and your family and what you've done helps to keep our world with hope, because that's what we need in these trying times right now. We need hope that it's a better day coming and that we can fight the forces of evil that's basically out here now, because it's a time of unfortunately selfishness and evilness that's permeating our society. So to hear a story like this, you know, people don't have time, but these are the times when you need to take time to hear people and hear things. If you're a sports person, then we gave you a lot to bite on and chew on as far as basketball and the greats of the game and, you know, how the game is played or whatever. I had one thing, and this is selfish, that I wanted to bring up to Teddy, because I want to, you know, obviously I invented a product called Touch Glove. It's a US patented product. What does that mean, Andre? Because people say, oh, you got a patent. You know, they don't really know what that means. That means that Andre McCarter had to scientifically mathematically, neurologically make the US patent, the United States government basically believe that you have a glove that can make a person improve their touch. One of the 5 senses that God gives people is touch, and that you have something that can enhance that touch that they have. So they were born with one thing, but if you use your glove, they can enhance where they are in touch. Now, African American wise, I'm in an African American database of inventors, and there's 2 people on each side of me I just want to bring up real quickly. So because my last name is McCarter, starts with an M, on one side of me is a gentleman named Jan Metzlinger, right? Before Jan Metzlinger came along, he came through Philadelphia. He was a West Indian person, but he grew up in Philadelphia, whatever. And before he came along, when you had shoes made, you know, you had to do it in advance. If you needed those shoes, like if you needed shoes today and you went to order today, you're gonna be walking barefoot for a while, brother, because you had to take it to the cobbler. The cobbler had to cut the sole out, make the leather, sew it together, this, that, and the other. It took time. He was the first person to come up with production to be able to make a shoe a minute. Great invention. On the other side of me, changed the world. That changed the world for people. On the other side of me is a gentleman, Elijah McCoy. And Elijah McCoy had, you know, really tens of almost 100 and something inventions. But one of them was the steam engine. And so when America was expanding across from the east to the west, trains was the key element that changed things. But the problem they were having is the trains can only go a certain distance before the engines would start overheating, the oil and stuff, and it would burn down. They had to stop, cool it, fix it, then they go again, you know, and it was wearing out the situation. Elijah McCoy comes along and he figures out a way through the steam engine that allowed the trains to be able to go further distances and be able to control the temperatures through his invention. Now there's about 3 or 4 professional athletes that have a patent. One of them was a famous, that I'm proud to be connected with, is a famous athlete, Jack Johnson. And people don't know that Jack Johnson, the great heavyweight champion of the world, invented 2 items. One was believe this or not, an anti-theft machine invention that was done around the time of Henry Ford making the Ford model cars. And the second thing he invented was one of the first people to invent a wrench. Jack Johnson, the one that was bold enough to ride around in a time when they were lynching black men with 4 or 5 white women in a car. So, you know, he was a one-of-a-kind guy. This guy was one of a kind, but I didn't know until I got involved with my patent process that this guy was also brilliant in other areas as well. And, you know, besides knocking people out all over the world, that he was incredible. So I feel, you know, that people that hear about my product or whatever, some people can't see, because they only know you for basketball. So they say, oh, you're a basketball player, you know, it's a gimmick, this, that, and the other. So you know, I don't pay attention because of why. I know that I had to convince the United States, but so I have a secret formula that the United States Patent Office says that the gloves that you created does what it says it can do. That's what the credibility is. But I wanted to ask you, how valuable is touch to you? Because my thing when I'm out promoting and talking on social media and doing things, I say that in today's game, based on the requirements of what they want you to do in today's game, that touch is the most dominant force in the game today. If you don't have it, before, if you were a big man, you could kind of make it through. Very few of those guys are coming through now. If you don't, you could be a big guy, 7 foot all in. You can't shoot from the outside. You can't put the ball down. You can't catch live. You don't have hands. You can still play basketball before. Now, you got to have touch. And who the greatest touch people are the Steph Currys that you mentioned. He comes down and shoots the ball. And I don't even think he's looking at the basket sometimes. His touch is so finite that he just gets to a spot, boom, and just throws it up there, but he can feel it because shooting, once you get into the science of it, like I've done, shooting is a feeling. You feel the shots. So you know when you shoot it, even when you miss it, you know exactly what you didn't do because you have feel for the ball. And that's all in your fingertips. All the touch glove does is this, that forces you to use them so often. The repetition of it creates new muscle memory. And so the player, even if they got bad habits, doing things with the ball releasing out of their hand when they're shooting or whatever, or dribbling the ball, even if it's hitting the palm of their hand, that information is no longer going to the brain. My glove is designed to cut off all your sensory feelings in the areas where you might be making a mistake and only sending the signal of the fingertips to the brain. So people that naturally are gifted, is about 5% of the people are the top touch people in the world. The rest of 95% of people don't have that level of touch. And that's why these 5%, the Kevin Durant's, the Steph Curry's, the Lillards, and all these people like that have superior touch. When they shoot the ball, they got such a feel for the ball. There's Kyrie Irving, his dribbling. He's got a feel for the ball. And so what I'm telling the people is that you can develop that touch even greater than what you have at this point. But I wanted to get your opinion on touch. What do you think the value of that is, especially in today's game?
Well, I mean, touch has really two different definitions. You can touch people sometimes by what you say.
Amen.
Or you can touch people because you're physically touching them. To me, anything that's repetitious is something that's beneficial because then it becomes rote. You do it automatically. Most people think being a good athlete is just something that's happenstance. It's not. It's because of repetition.
Right.
And I think the mere fact that you mentioned that. And to me, touch is also the cornerstone for, quote, building relationships with people, And today, we don't have that kind of relationship building skill set for the most part. When I came along, I knew guys on my team as well as the guys on the other team.
Right.
And we, regardless of how well and how hard we played against each other, we had a fond relationship or respect for one another. The other thing is, how often do we talk to one another?
Right.
So it's like when you see bad, like we used to call them BAKs when I was in the school system. That was badass kids.
Right.
Well, I had a relationship with them because I talked to them.
Right.
And I listened to what they had to say.
Right.
And then I was able to give them feedback on what could be and what couldn't be. But most people, A, don't have a relationship. B, most people don't talk to one another. And C, very often do we listen?
Right.
How often do we actually listen to what people say?
Right.
When people come to me and say, I have a problem, I say, cut to the chase. What are you talking about?
Right.
That's all I want to know. I don't need the narrative.
Right.
I need you to cut to the bone. And in your particular case, if you got something that can create a capability that's beneficial to whether it's athletes or just people in general, that becomes your marketing tool.
Right.
If you're here, this can help you to get to here. But then it's a choice on your part.
Exactly.
It always comes down to choice.
Exactly.
And because of the information out there, people are making bad choices. A, because they don't read. You want to keep a secret, put it in a book.
Right.
So again, it's repetition again. They have to hear it. They have to see it. They have to process it in a way that they see it as something that's going to be beneficial.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it doesn't, even though it's your product, they have to see it from the standpoint of ownership.
Right.
Oh, this is something, man. I know I'm going to be better at something because of this.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what I try to do because I do. People say, man, you on TikTok? I said, yeah, I do TikTok. And I get on there and I just give out little blurbs. Your money is in your touch. I tell the kids, your scholarship is in your touch. Whether you're going to start on that team is in your touch. Because if you don't have it, that's what these coaches are looking for now. You got to be able to shoot the three. That's just the way it is. You got to be able to dribble the ball in today's game. So I say, you can go ahead and do what you want to do. But the bottom line is, what is you doing that's separating you from all these other kids that want the same thing you want? You need something that's going to separate you. And I'm telling you, and most play shooters, if you look at them, they've been shooting the same rate for the last 3 years. We just take the last 3 years of they reached the ceiling. And even though you said repetition, I agree partially, but my theory that I've learned, Teddy, is that repetition is good because you are consistently doing something. But on the other hand, if you got something bad that's in that process and you're repeating it, that's why your shooting hasn't gotten better, because it's
So
something
therefore, it's up to you.
Yeah,
but
that's
then
something.
when it's up to you to make a change.
Yeah,
See,
exactly.
repetition is good, but when
Right.
when it falters, you got to be smart enough to be able to process that and say,
Right.
wait a minute, oh, let me stop right here.
Yeah, there's something that's going on. And what Touch Glove does is basically it fixes the hidden things that the eye can't see. Because a lot of these coaches, I'm gonna just take a quick example. You can take LeBron. I mean, if you just want to go to the top, LeBron, right? Great player, all time, this and that and other. But he only shooting 60-something percent, 66% or something from the free throw line. Now he has the greatest coaches in the world. There's only 30 people that have a shooting coaching job in the NBA. 30 teams, 30 coaches that teach shooting or whatever for their teams. He has his own personal trainers probably, right? They're telling him the right thing, get your feet together, get your elbow in, see the target, follow through, this and that and other. But there's things that when he's releasing that ball that the natural eye cannot see. That's where Touch Glove comes in. It's not trying to fight and mess up a coach. It's not saying coaches can't coach or trainers can't train. You're giving them all the fundamentals, but you can't break the habit, Teddy. And that's what Touch Glove is. It's a habit breaker. It'll force you to do the correct thing every time, even when you don't realize it because of the way. That's what the science, that the reason why the patent office gave me to think, because I proved to them neurologically that when they have these gloves on, it's only allowing the proper information, which is the fingertip information, to go to the brain. Even when they're not necessarily doing that, it's cutting off. So like a guy like Westbrook or Giannis, they can't fix his shot, man. Ben Simmons, they can't fix his shot. You know why? Because it ain't got nothing to do with you telling them the fundamentals of shooting. They got something in the way that ball's releasing off their hand. It might be coming off the side finger or side part of their hand over here that they can't fix it. So what my Touch Glove does is cut all those problems away and forces a Ben Simmons and a Giannis to have to use the fingertips every time they shoot it. And it creates the muscle memory. Like that's where what you're saying comes in. But if they keep practicing just as they are positioned right now, it can't get better. It's already proven. They've been doing this for 2 or 3 years. People are saying Giannis needs a shot for 3 or 4 years. Ben Simmons needs to get a shot for 3 or 4 years. Nobody has been able to solve that. Why? Because God bless me, I got the miracle situation over here that can change that because of the gift I was given of this ideology. It's from above. You know what I mean?
But like in order for anything to reach the mind of those that are in the position to bring about change, they have to be willing to change. Somebody has to be willing to say, hey, look, you know what? I'll give you the perfect example. Giannis shot 17 for 19, championship game.
Right.
The difference in that game was he was smart enough to know, just go to the basket. They're going to either foul me or not foul me. Big men don't go to the basket. He shot more foul shots that game than the whole other team.
Right.
Because he was going to the line. By going to the line, that improved his ability to think positive rather than negative. Think winning a championship rather than losing a championship. Knowing that it was riding on his ability to make that shot. Helped him to refocus his initiative and his efforts.
Now, so let me cut you off right there. That's a great point, because my theory and point, and it's a fact, it ain't a theory, it's a truth, is that he won't be able to reproduce that again, because he hasn't created the muscle memory and broken the habits that the reason why he was shooting the way he was shooting before. But that day, alignment of the stars, things came together that day. And like you said, his mindset that day to win that championship and to do all that was great. But now when the season comes back this summer, if they don't get, because I'm trying to work on all these things I'm bringing up to get to these people, then, you know, he's going to be right back in the same place. Now, can he get a little bit better? He can. But just imagine him with a touch where he can pull up and hit a 15-footer, where he can shoot the three. The game is going to be in trouble. If this guy gets a touch on his three-point shot, and it's the same thing with Ben Simmons too. If he gets a three-point shot and can pull up on the jumper and make them little floaters in the lane and all that stuff like that at the size these guys got, it's going to be, you know, just like you look at Kevin Durant. Just imagine Giannis being able to hit just a portion of the shots that Kevin Durant can hit. It's going to be curtains. This guy is going to be a monster beyond the monster he already is. So it's a question, like you said, of him first, then the people around him, because everybody is worried about credit. I don't want those particular people I named. I don't want the credit for that. I just want them to do it, because I can't sit up here. It's like watching somebody with cancer and you got the answer to cancer. You're sitting over here and this person going through this hell, and you have to keep watching. Every time you watch it, say, oh, dang, I got the answer. I could solve that problem they got, you know? So that one, those are personal. You know, my marketplace is kids and, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. But there's certain things. I'm a basketball player, Teddy. I just, you know, I'm like, man, I want you to be the best you can be. I got something to help you reach the pinnacle of what you're capable of doing. And the mind is unlimited. We only use 10% of it. Your muscle memory is an incredible machine. It's beyond anything you can imagine of what it can do. This mind of ours and our muscle memory is it's incredible. It has recorded everything we've ever done on a basketball court. And the minute you bring up something, you look at a basket a certain way, it knows how to make you turn your body. I tell kids all the time, the reason why you guys missed the layup, you didn't look at the basket. But when you look at the basket scientifically, what happens is that your eyes and brain work together. And when you going in and you look at the basket, the mind, the muscle memory and the mind is so, and the eyes work together, they actually tell you how to turn your body to make that shot. That's what all that's the stuff I've been studying over the last 20 years about basketball. So I've become a scientist of the game, of how what you're doing is actually happening.
But that ties into the word vision.
Right.
You see, most of us have sight, but how many of us have vision? Right. See, that's why I said you see what you want to become, which is now,
right,
unless you become what you see.
Right.
So if I see something better, then that's what I can become. If I just want to use my eyes, I see that I'm around poverty. This is where I'm going to be all my life. Right. But as a kid, I saw poverty. I saw where I was growing up. Right. I saw gangs. I saw hard times. But I also had the opportunity to see where I wanted to be. Right. You know, that's why I was able to go to the museum. That's why I was able to go to the zoo. That's why I was able to take advantage of the park system. All things that were free, as well as the library that's available. Right. But again, you got to want to see where you want to be. Yeah. And your concept is, I mean, I'll give you a hypothetical. Take a team that averages 55% shooting from the free throw line. Let that go up to 75%. That becomes a winning team. Yes. Just a team.
That's funny. That's my selling point now. I'm telling these coaches, Touch Club affects your bottom line. Okay. That's what we're talking about. If you improve some of these teams, if you go through your season and look at all the games you lost, forget the rebounds, forget the turnovers, forget this and that and other. If you just look at the free throws that you didn't make, your team didn't make, how many games would you have won? Well, we would have won 10 more games easy. Well, what would have happened to your life? That's what I tell kids. Would you pay $45 for a scholarship? They said, what? I said, yeah, $45 for a scholarship. How you gonna do that? I said, well, when you get these touch gloves and your shooting percentage goes from 32% to 45% from three, when them scouts come to look at the other guy, they're like, wait a minute, who's that guy over there? Man, that guy's touch on that ball. See, your whole opportunities can change just because of that increase.
And think about what you just said. For the most part, most good games come down to 3 to 5 points.
Yeah. Most
good games. Those 3 to 5 points is the difference in who makes more foul shots.
There's no question about it. That's where the game is at.
It's now that gets into mathematics.
Yeah.
And that's what I do probably best. You know, I look at numbers. I can tell people who's going to win an election, who's going to lose an election by seeing where they start and how hard they were willing to work and where they're going to end up. So again, I mean, I think you got something. So,
well, Teddy, I'm going to close out, but that point is really good because these Laker fans out here, right? So my contention is I'm not going to get into what I've been trying to do as far as, you know, these guys, but Westbrook needs a three-point shot. If he could just make a few more of those shots and be more confident with his shot, that's going to change a lot of dynamics because they got a team sitting over here in the East with a scoring duo that is unprecedented. So to beat those guys, they're going to need Westbrook to be able to hit some of those shots.
You know what I think, and they didn't do it this year, is the team that could get to the finals that has the most guys that are in shape for 7 games. If I'm not better than the other team, I press them the whole game.
Yeah.
See, I don't care how good you are. If you're tired, you can't do it so much.
Basketball players, when guys got tired, we all got stupid. It's just the way basketball is. You get to a point where you're tired. That's why I didn't let myself get to the point of being tired. I was in shape. But these guys that got tired, they start throwing the ball away. We pressing them, they throw the ball right to you. That's why Coach Wooden used to say, don't gamble. We pressing, but don't gamble for the ball. Don't try to steal it or nothing. They'll give you the ball. And sure enough, the game keep going, the guy dribble the ball and throw it right to your teammate. See, they threw the ball right to us. And we start recognizing that. We said, no, coach is right. We just gonna put the pressure on them every time. And eventually these guys will start, they got tired. You know, they was having fun in the beginning because they was getting open shots. But when that conditioning started becoming an issue, and every time they messed up on a fast break, we were bam, bam, bam. Because we're gonna score. If you mess up on a break and it's a break, we score. We got a pattern, boom, 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 layup, back to the press. So that's what made a guy like a Dennis Rodman an asset. Yes, no question.
Because at the end of the game, he was just as furious as he was at the beginning of the game.
No question about it.
And he knew how to use his time to demonstrate that. He didn't do it the whole game, but when it counted the most, you could depend on that. That's what I liked about it.
Yeah, that's no question about it. I like when he said he woke up, he was averaging about 7 to 8 rebounds a game. And he woke up one day and said, you know what, from this day forward, I'm going to go after every rebound. And he started his rebounding, went from then to supernatural rebounder. But Coach Wooden used to always teach us that assume every shot is missed. If you just have that theory that you assume every shot is missed and you go after it, you know, Wilt even said in my interview with him, he said, you know, Andre, people think that because you're 7 foot or whatever, like I am, big guys, he said, no, rebounding is below the rim. And it's the pursuers are the rebounders, the guys that pursue. And a lot of times those rebounds are, he said, because I'm like a big oak tree. Once the ball go one way, or so I go one way, it's hard for me to turn it back the other way to get the ball. You know, so he said the people that's 6'6", 6'7" guys that go after the ball, like a Dennis Rodman and just tenacious about it, those are some of your best rebounders. And, you know,
and most people forget, on most teams, you need a role player. See, everybody ain't going to score. If you know your role, then it makes it a lot easier for teams. When I played, I had 2 outside shooters and I had 2 inside scorers.
Right.
So, and I told the inside scorers, if you take a shot from the outside, you ain't gonna see the ball no more. Mm-hmm. And the scorers, when you're driving to the basket, if you ain't going all the way in to lay it up, don't take no 10 to 15 foot shot and get banged. Do what you do best.
Right.
And if everybody on their team does what they do best, they'll be successful. Mm-hmm. But again, somebody's got to say to somebody, hey, don't you shoot. I played 1 year on a team and I gave the ball to a guy and he shot the ball. I said, if I ever give you the ball again, don't you shoot it, just throw it out of bounds because I know it's a miss.
Right.
So therefore, know your role. If you know your role, then everybody is going to benefit. It's the whole that matters.
Oh, yes, no question.
The individual part, it's the whole. To me, the whole was winning, regardless of whether I scored 20 points or 2 points,
exactly.
Whether I got 5 assists or 10 assists. It didn't matter except winning.
Yeah. And see, and I'm gonna close on that because we're a testament to that teaching that we got in Philadelphia basketball, because we all, that's the way it was. I always played basketball. I tell people all the time, I played basketball to win the game. If I got 40, we needed 40 and 10 and 10 rebounds for us to win, then that's what it needed. If I had 5 points, 8 assists and 8 rebounds, then that's the way it was. Whatever it took to win the game, that's how we played the game of basketball. And then guess what? Fortunately for you, and hopefully for myself, I believe, we played life that way. We played to win the game, work with others, help others, be the best we can. And I appreciate your time today. We've gone on long, but it doesn't matter. This is valuable stuff. I'm glad I got it on tape. I don't care. Eventually, however it goes, I'm just glad we spent this time together. I appreciate you, my brother. The world is better because you're in it. And keep doing what you're doing. And you're exciting. And you give me hope for my future as far as, you're a little older than me. And that you're still progressive. You're doing things for the community. You're doing great things, and it inspires me still. You still inspire me, even like that little 16, 17-year-old kid was watching you on the basketball court and being inspired by you. You still inspire me in life here now. And I appreciate this opportunity I've had to interview you and speak to you. And
well, from me to you, it's most certainly a pleasure to have this opportunity to talk to you. I've observed and I've watched you for all these years. You have most certainly made me and other people in Philadelphia extremely proud. You demonstrate that, there's life after basketball. There are other things that we can do. It's not just the basketball. Some of us read better, some of us write better. And I say to most of those that come around me, the 3 things that are important is you learn how to read, you learn how to write, and you learn how to count. And on top of that, if you can comprehend, you are a danger.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Thank you, Teddy. I appreciate you, man.
Okay, have a good one.
All right, God bless.
All right.